Hello, everyone. Good evening. I am back. This is Yvonne Ponce, professional career and image consultant, coming back to prepare individual job seekers to go out there and get that job. Last week, about 2 weeks ago, I talked about doing cover letters and being unconventional and being different when you approach your cover letter, bringing something new to the view of the eyes of the employer that's going to read your cover letter, trying different things. But today, I want to go quickly and talk for a brief while about preparing your resume. All right? Now, as I said before, I will be looking at my notes so that I can kind of stay in function and in flow with some key points I want you to take away. So let's start. What is the purpose of a resume? People need to think about that when you do your resume. What is the purpose of it? Why are you putting it together? Why do employees want you to send a resume out? Well, some of the things I came up with for the purpose of a resume is one, to get a job. Hey, so why sit down and write a resume or get somebody else to write a resume for you that's not aiming to get you a job? Another purpose of a resume, if not the job, to get you to interview that and hope to get the job. So you have to think about that. And another purpose is to sell your worth, your value, your contribution that you would contribute to a company if they should hire you. So remember, you want to get a job. So think about that when you're writing your resume or asking somebody to do it for you. You want to get an interview. You want to sell your worth, and you want to target the audience or the industry or the company that you would love to work with. All right, so let's go forward with some things you need to consider when you do your resume. First of all, let's talk about certain parts of the resume. Well, some people need to remember when you do your heading with your name, your email address. Some people don't do emails anymore. They just do their name, and they do their email address. They don't do their apartment address or their house address anymore, because a lot of employers don't mail anymore. They just email pretty much or respond to you online in different ways. So, one thing I've seen over the years, and I'm talking from things I learned in college, things I learned from my other own experience, things I learned from doing career readiness, career coaching, and professional development for about, if not more, than 25 years. I have seen people spell their name wrong on their own resume, spell their name wrong. And I have also seen people put a wrong phone number or email address. So let's make sure our heading is good and it gives our complete name and our email address and the phone number. All right? And if you have a LinkedIn page and you think your LinkedIn is slamming, put your LinkedIn link on your resume. So I'm not going to hone in on that, but we do know that a resume should have a summary of qualification. The objective really is somewhat played out. You can put the objective in the summary of qualification on your resume. And of course, you want the employment history, and you want to put the education under the employment history. Only time I recommend you put the education on the top of the employment history is if your education is really more relatable to the position and your employment history is not as relatable to the position you're going for. So other than that, they would love to see your employment history first. But one of the trick things I have done in my summary of qualifications, or you could call it the highlight of qualifications. I even heard in my college they call it the positioning statement. It shares pretty much your major competencies, some things that you have accomplished, some value that you have. In other words, you could say things like an exceptional receptionist received employees of the month for the last 3 months, that's somewhat of an accomplishment you can use. But what I do, I'll throw in achieve a master's degree from NYU in my particular field. So I kind of throw that up in my highlight of qualifications so that if I know the school makes a statement to people to keep them reading my resume, or the degree I got, or the type of degree I got makes a statement to people, then I kind of squeeze that up. And then later on at the end, I'll put the education and more of the details involved in the education. All right? So, definitely you want to focus on the format, and I'm just going through that really quick because I'm really more concerned about the content, all right, and what you say on your resume. The format, some people say 1 or 2 page, don't do any more than 1 page. I feel that is not true. It's not true for most people, and especially professional people. I feel if you're going on 2 pages, at least have something to say. Don't just make your margin so wide that it end up on 2 pages, wasting the reader's time or the employer time. But you have to have something impactful or very valuable to say that makes it spill over to 2 pages. Worth the reading. Because to be truthful, they're really not going to read past the summary of qualification. By the time they get to the summary of qualification, it's most of the time for, I would say, more experienced worker, your summary of qualification should be in paragraph form, not the bullet form. You can still do bullets, but it should be paragraph form. That looks more like you know about business and what the industry calls for this day and age. And I am the type, things just pop all in my head, so let me just throw this out. Please don't date yourself by saying at the end of your resume, references available upon request. Please, please, please do not do that. That will get your resume tossed right in the garbage, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Because it will show that you're dated and you haven't taken time to stay current and relevant. All right? Resumes have changed today. You know, some things remain the same and some styles have changed. Don't have these wide margins. You can pretty much do 1 inch or a little less than 1 inch. But basically, if you're going to spill over the 2 pages, which I feel if you're a professional that experience, it is okay to do so. And please don't let your font be so small, trying to squeeze everything in, because you got to bear in mind the reader. A lot of times when we send out our resumes, we don't think about the reader. Again, like I said with the cover letter, make your resume interesting. Don't bore the heck out of the reader. And please don't make them have to squinch to look at your resume and see the letters. That also can get your resume tossed. All right? They talk about these computer things, and if you have bullets and different type of fonts, your resume get tossed. That is true for some employers. They let machines do some of the tossing and the screening and the weeding. But for the most part, real people are behind the writing, looking at your writing. So you can do bullets. People still are favorable of bullets. But make sure, even if you do the bullets, that the key points are highlighted among the bullets. All right? All righty then. So let's talk about some things you need to consider, some do's and don'ts, okay, on resumes. 1, like I said earlier, objectives do not have to be there. If you're applying for a particular position, they know that's what your resume is there for. But that's why you have a cover letter. Usually, the cover letter already speaks to that. Oh, by the way, don't send out your resume without a cover letter. Even if they don't ask for a cover letter, you should send the cover letter. Because the smart, wise person will send that cover letter. That is the extra plus to your resume, to your application process. Send that cover letter. I said earlier, 2 weeks ago, I believe, that the cover letter, sometimes they read that and make a decision of whether or not to bring you in. They don't even read the resume, just based on what you said in your cover letter. So bring a cover letter. Make sure you email a cover letter or mail, or which hardly ever mail, but or do online a cover letter. All right, with your resume, and that's where your objective would be, and that's the position that they will know you're going for. All right. So again, if you are going to do an objective, squeeze it in your highlights of qualification. All right. I'm looking at my notes, as you can see. Oh, that resumes are in an essay, so leave the word I out, and we did this, and excuse me, words like a, like you write in a sentence, leave those words out. You're not writing a sentence, you're just throwing out thoughts and ideas and things to show them what you have done and to describe yourself. And while you're describing yourself on the resume, describing your experience, your functions, and what you have done, think about, again, the job description, the industry that you're going in, somewhat this jargon. Don't overdo the jargon, but the job description and the industry, what they like to hear, what they need to know. All right? And what they don't need to know, leave off. Leave some things up for discussion. If you tell them everything in the resume, then you might weed yourself out because you're overbearing, or you might weed yourself out because they learn too much about you. All right? So leave enough interesting statements, enough to say, wow, I want to get to know this person more. I want to get to this person on our team. That is what you want to do. All right? So let me see what I want to share with you. Oh, another thing. You don't need to put, this won't kill you all the time, but you don't need to put periods on the end of your sentence. When you do a resume, it's not a sentence because it doesn't have a subject like I, we, she, he. All right? So you can leave that out. I don't think that'll be a killjoy, but just think about it. If you have someone that's very anal that's reading your resume, they might look at that and say, oh, nope, throw it in the garbage. Garbage it goes. All right? So let me share some other stuff that I've seen people put pictures. Don't put pictures. Don't put your marital status, your height. Oh, unless you're doing an acting resume or resume, a type of industry that requires them to know some of those things. Okay? So think about that as well. Remember, when you do your resume, you want to put your most recent job first. Chronological resume, most recent job first. Now, on that thought, there are pretty much three types of resumes. There's chronological resume, when you put your recent job first. There's functional, when you focus on the skill. People use functional resumes when they just focus on maybe 3 or 4 skills. Teaching skills, counseling skills, finance skills, maybe training skills. That's the functional. And then you just focus on all the jobs you had where you did counseling, training, or whatever, and you put those skill sets in and what you have done. Most employers don't like functional resumes. Sorry. Some people use functional resumes to hide the gaps, to hide that they're job hoppers, or to hide that they haven't worked in a long time. First, I said gap, meaning gap in between jobs. You've been at one job 5 years, but you haven't been working in 3 or 4 years, and then you've been at another job 10 years, but you haven't worked in 2 years. So they want to kind of hide that, so they use functional. The main two I see is chronological, which is the one that is the most favorable, and functional chronological, where you do the skills, and then at the bottom you just list the company and where you worked at. And then you leave it up to the employer to figure out which skill you did at that company. So that wouldn't be the best approach. Most employers don't prefer that, but some industry might. All right, so bear that in mind. Make sure your resume doesn't have a mixed message, or things on the message that seem suspicious. Sometimes we do want to enhance and make our resume sound more impactful or more exciting or more valuable, but make sure it doesn't send a mixed message. In other words, maybe you've been working, oh, this is the one I see. You've been working, have a work history for 20 years, but your resume seemed like you came out of high school. You just came out of high school. And the reason why that's not good, because some resumes are so trivial, the words that are used, the phrases that are used, how you describe your function seems so trivial. Not that it's insignificant, but it seems so entry level. That's the word I'm looking for. Entry level, when you really done a lot to add value, to make a difference on your job. Don't be afraid to sell yourself. That's part of the reason you send a resume, is to sell your worth. All right. So when you're doing a resume, think about it before you do a resume. Think about 10 things you have done for a company that added value, made a difference, made them money, made things go smoothly or even smoother, changed something or added something or recommended something that made an impact on the company in a positive way. So your highlight a qualification or professional statement before you do your employment history should share some of the highlighted things. But throughout your employment history, say if you got 3 or 4 jobs, each job, first bullet, first 2 or 3 bullets need to say, have the highest significant bullets of what your job function was on the top. And 1 or 2 can include an accomplishment that you have done. I can't share that enough, because some of the things we done, our functionality, maybe someone without a degree or someone that just started working could do the same thing, or some thousand others that are applying for the same position. But what makes you stand head and shoulders above the rest, that'll prepare your resume, that it can unlock opportunities or bring opportunities, is you sharing what made you unique, what made you special, what made what you done different in the company, what made people hate to see you leave. Why would your boss think of those things when you write down your 10 accomplishments or achievement, if you will? Why would your company hate to see you go? What have you done for them lately? All right? Also, your accomplishment can include honors that you have gotten, books you have written. It could also include projects you worked on, teams you have led, projects that you had to coordinate, events you coordinated, maybe some recommendation you made that really wowed the department, really made the department more effective. It could also be any certifications you got, degrees, but not just your degree. Some courses you took that can be very critical to a company that you are applying for. So sometimes it is wise to share in your degree some of the courses you have taken. Not just say the degree, because don't assume companies just because you hire, Rosalind, don't assume companies just because you have a degree. Like myself in HR, I have a degree in HR and a master's degree, but don't assume that companies, even an HR department, knows exactly some of the things you have learned. And one of the things I did in my school was a capstone, and I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but we actually had teams and we ran a business, and we ran a simulation. It was a computer simulations, and we keyed in our profits, we keyed in our marketing strategy, how much money we would put in marketing, advertisement, how much money we would put in productivity, other stuff, or even HR expenses. And it actually showed us if we when we competed against the other class, if we lost in terms of our other teams in the class. And it actually showed us if we bankrupt. And I think it was Big Bob or something that gave us a bankrupt, and then we had to take a loan and different things like that. Some jobs that I might apply for or need to apply for or consider, I may need to share that. People don't know I went through all of that in my school, so sometimes you do have to share some of the things you learn in the educational field as well. All right. I shared about the design of the resume. Make sure your font is not doing too much different things. Some people like to italicize, preferably myself. I don't prefer to, even though I have. I pretty much like straightforward writing. Time Roman numerals I used to use, but then I realized that was boring. One of my teachers mentioned that years ago, and I said, oh, when you use certain fonts, it speaks about who you are as a person. So certain companies like corporate America might want Time Roman numeral. They're straight, clear, to the point. Remember the days we used to use bond paper? Toss that. Color paper, kind of yellowish. Toss that. That's date you. Be careful of dating yourself, especially if you're older, and even if you're younger, be careful of dating yourself. Some jobs you might want to go for, even if you're younger, they might be looking for a mature, more experienced person. So you got to be careful of presenting yourself so youthful if a job requires someone that is experienced or limited experience, but can show that they can handle it. And if you're mature, like 40 and over, hey, 50 and over, sure enough, hey, you really don't want to date yourself. So bear in mind, stay current, stay relevant, and really, really look at how they do resumes today. It's so different than how we did resume many years ago. So pay attention to the design. Pay attention to making sure the things you put on top as your functionality will be based on how you can add value and accomplishment. Those should be your first bullets or first statement under your functionality. Not just that you type, not just that you ran project, not just that you led a team, not just that you analyze report, but how did that impact the company? Okay? Am I getting this through you? All right. I hope so. Okay, education. A lot of people, I forgot. Don't go, especially if you're 50 plus, please don't go telling them what you did 30 years ago. I am so sorry, but I don't care how well you did it, how much you did, how strategic you thought that was, how much technology you learned 20 years ago. They don't care. They can't care. They don't have time. They have people that have more current experience. So try not, I know you were a fantastic executive assistant or an executive coach or CEO, but if it was 30 years ago or 20 years ago or even 10, you could kind of put it, but if you didn't do it in the last 3 years, it's not going to benefit you as much. Just being realistic. I know God can do all things, but that will not benefit you unless God do it. Just let me say it right then, there. Straightforward. Some things you need a miracle. But if a miracle's not happening, things that you've done 15 years ago, take it off your resume. Take it off. Somehow, maybe you want to put it in the highlighter qualification, or you could kind of put that in your cover letter, that you do have experience in that, even though you didn't mention it on your resume. But they don't really need what you done 15 years ago. I'm so sorry. If anybody know me on this Facebook page, I used to work at Wall Street 24 years ago. And about 8 or 10 years ago, I had to take it off. I fought with it because I love to let people know I came from Wall Street. Even though I'm in nonprofit now, I love to let people know I came from Wall Street. 12 years of Wall Street, right? But I had to let Morgan Guaranty Trust Company go off my resume. Had to let some of the jobs when I was first supervisor, first time I was a supervisor or coordinator, had to let it go. All right? So like a man don't want to let go of an old car, or a woman don't want to let go of that old dress, but you got to let it go because you can't wear it anymore. All right, then. You can't use it anymore. So let it go. So all those jobs that's way back when was fantastic, but let it go. Nobody want to see it but you. All right? So let me think of some other things you need to know about your resume. Remember, your professional statement need to let them know what you want to do. And not only what you want to do, but how you can do it based on your experience. And let me go back to education. A lot of people struggle with, especially if they're a little more mature, whether or not to put the date. I'm starting to see even younger people don't put the date. So I would say it's better to take a risk not to put the date. If the company don't ask for a date, sometimes a company come and they want the dates and they'll actually reach out to you for it. But I wouldn't give them the date, especially if the last time you've been to school was in 1979 and you're 55. Don't put the date. If the last time you graduated was 2012, you may want to put the date, especially if it was from a college. But be careful about dating yourself. And you can date yourself by the education. And let me ask you, sidebar, why in the world is the last time you educated yourself 1979 and you're only 50? All right? After high school, you really need to find either go to college. If you're not going to go to college, find courses that might be interesting to you to keep yourself current, keep yourself knowledgeable, keep yourself well trained and well learned. Learning is lifelong. Don't ever get so comfortable until you stop learning. And now when you have your resume, the last thing you have on education is when you graduated from high school. That's not a good picture. You want your resume to unlock doors. So you need to take courses. Some ways you can even indicate that you took a course if your current job, send you to professional development workshop. Don't be the staff that be like, oh, I don't want to go to that. I don't have time for that. I have too much work. No, go. Once you go, that course usually have a title, and you put that on your resume. All right? You put that on your resume under education, under additional courses, additional training, whatever. There are tons and tons of adult continual ed courses you could take that are 1 day, 5 weeks, 10 weeks, and they are skill building, knowledge building, competency building to keep you valuable in the industry. You want to be wanted. You want people to see your resume. They can't always hire you, but you want them to take an interest in your resume. You want them to bring you in for an interview. And I will say this, I'm going to talk a couple of weeks from now more about interviewing. But if someone call you for a job or a job you applied for, and you really didn't want that job, but they call you for the job, interview. Go to the interview, because the more interviews you go to, the more practice you get. And you might find out you like the job anyway and want to take it. Or it may just be practice, and you'll learn where your strengths are in interviewing or your weaknesses are in interviewing, or how to interview more effectively. So bear in mind, when you do your resume, think of your target industry. Think of what they want to hear. Think of what will sell them and get their attention when you put that resume together. Make sure you put your recent job at the top. Spend, more of your bullets and your time speaking about your most recent job or the most relatable job. Even if it's not the most recent job, if it's the most relatable job, put more emphasis and conversation under the most relatable and the most recent job. Also, bear in mind that there is something called transferable skill. Sometimes you may not have the exact skill that they are looking for, or put it this way, you might have the skill or the competency, but not in that exact industry. That's what I should say. So you need to consider how much transferable skills you have that relates to the role. For instance, you might be good at negotiating for contracts in a non-for-profit industry. You can transfer that same negotiation skill to corporate when they're looking for corporate clients, all right, to buy their services, their financial expertise, their product, whatever. The same negotiation skills, same sales skills, same skills to establish partners can be used in a different industry. It can be used in a hospital industry to recruit clients, recruit patients, okay? Or even outreach in other non-for-profit industries. So think of that also when you're doing your resume. And make sure the buzzwords in the job description shows up in your resume. You could be exactly, some of the words in the job description shows up exactly. You can rephrase some of it, but make sure it speaks to the job description. If they say they need someone that can analyze reports, and you have done that even if it's on a small scale, you need to have that up in your resume. One partner I worked with many years ago from Chambers of Commerce, he said to me, when you're looking at a job description before you send out students, he said, look at the requirement, not just the qualifications. Sometimes we look at qualifications that they're looking for, and we forget about the importance of the requirement. Qualifications are good, but there are some requirements that we really, really need to consider when we go and submit our resume. All right, so put love in your resume. If you want to unlock doors and bring opportunities to interview or even nail that job, you got to put some love, you got to put some time, you got to put some excitement. And let me say this. An employer would not be excited about your resume if you're not excited about what you have done for a company lately. If you're not excited about what you have to offer, don't expect an employee that's reading your resume to be excited about it. And let me share this. That will show up in your resume. All right? It will show up in your resume that you are not excited about your work, excited about what you have done and what you can do for them. Because that's what an employer want to know. What can you do for me? And what have you done for other companies lately? So bear that in mind. And another thing I'm going to say, even with putting emphasis on jobs that are relatable and jobs that are recent, put emphasis on skills that are needed based on the job description. And make sure your your resume is true to the job description. I know we like to enhance our resumes, but let's not go so overboard until it's borderline untrue. All right? Let me say this. Even what you have done in church, resumes now, society and employers appreciate things you have done voluntarily, things you do as an internship, during an internship, or even during being volunteering for a job, or either in church or for a community organization, for just giving some time to a project. you need to include that, especially if it speaks to the job you're going for and you don't have a lot of experience. If you don't have a lot of experience, you do have to dig outside of the norm, outside of the box. And what you have done in church, in fact, I shared earlier that I worked in corporate America. I worked on Wall Street. And for some reason, I just kept feeling like I wanted to work with young people. Only God knows why. But I thought I wanted to have my own business and I wanted to work with young people. So I kept saying I want to open up my own business to work with young people. So when I left Wall Street after having my last son, I wanted to try to get into an organization where I can work with young people. So back then I started cold calling. And believe it or not, when I did finally get somebody to listen to me, all experience I had with working with young people was only in church. It was in church. I didn't have any experience on a job. I worked on Wall Street. You're working with money, you're working with input and information, you're working with clients on the phone, talking to people overseas and all of that stuff. We was talking to people overseas way before all this global stuff now, right? People in London, Switzerland, all kind of places. But I never worked with young people. I only worked with them in church. And ironically, I work with them with work readiness. We call it work readiness, career coaching, job readiness, outplacement. We call it all of that today, all these fancy names, executive coaching and all of that. But I was really helping young people. Hi, Wanda, she know. I was over the Daughters of Destiny, working with the Daughters of Destiny. And I was helping them learn how to get jobs, by resume and interviewing and all of that. And believe it or not, I got my first non-for-profit job with Vanguard, working with young people. And as God would have it, I started as a career coach or career educator. And then I was blessed to become the coordinator after 6 months. So that was my opportunity. And then I went from there to working with older people and then working with professional people, working with people that job seekers and things of that. But it all started, see that, from my experience in church. So don't overlook experience that you didn't actually have at a 9 to 5. There's so many skills in church. I put on empowerment events. I coordinated events, Fierce and White, Red Thread, fashion shows, educational fashion shows, and things of that sort. All of that is project management. Had to raise money, had to get people to pay for tickets, had to talk about the logistics. I had to do a lot of scheduling and all that stuff to do, set the program, everything. And a lot of that, if you look up project management, had to communicate with teams, ask people to do things, help them execute it, give them what to do, all of that. So look at all of those things and see how those things could fit on your resume if you need it to fit on your resume in order to be more marketable and increase your value. All right? If you were hired at a job more than once, like a company wanted you back, that's good to say on your resume as well. As a job that I was hired as a contract work 3 times. I mentioned hired 3 times by this company. These are some things you need to think about. So when you do your resume, you can do some of the regular stuff that you see on all resumes. But if you want to be prepared to stand head and shoulders above the rest, during this season, I know many of you are shopping and thinking about Christmas and shopping and from Jesus to gifts to toys and family to eating and thinking about all the festive. But many of us that are thinking about looking for jobs need to start putting your resume together now. And so think outside of the box. That's what's going to make you head and shoulders above the rest. That is what's going to get you the interview. That is what's going to help get you the job. That is what's going to help you get an opportunity. Think outside of the box. What can I say that make a difference from my competition. Make me unique, make me stand out. Oh, I said this, I think last week, 2 weeks ago with the cover letter. Shows that, what can I say that displays that I can solve the problem. Employers are hiring people to solve the problem. Okay? Not always a bad problem, but it's a problem that needs to be solved in order to get the work done, in order to increase their clientele, in order to make the process smoother. What can I put on my resume? What needs to be said? Some of the things we put on our resume don't need to be said. But then there's other things that need to be said, and we don't have any room left for it because we got so much other mumble jumble that doesn't need to be said. All right? So remember, make love to your resume. Put love in it, excitement in it. Think about it. And I would advise anyone, if you have the money, get someone to do it. At least if you have to make changes, you have the foundation. Unfortunately, most of the time you have to change your resume almost every job you apply for. That's just the way of the 21st century. You have to do it. Getting a job is a job, but make it fun. Don't overdo it. Don't change it that much. Try to get a good resume that's powerful, that speaks volumes about who you are and what you can do for the company and how you can add impact to that industry. All right? Make changes and do things great. I think that's about it. Knowing me, I'm always trying to give everything, but then if I give everything, it would be no need for me to come back. But I do want to make sure I'm not leaving out anything. But I will say this. You can always inbox me if you have a question about your resume, and that is a freebie. All right? That is a freebie. Now, if you want me to do your resume, that's going to cost you. I don't like doing resumes, but I do them, and I do them well. And when I do them, people want me to do it quick, fast, and a hurry. I don't do quick, fast, and a hurry resumes because I'm trying to do your resume well. I'm trying to make it sell. All right? And I got a 9-to-5 job, and I got a ministry in New Life that I got to do if anybody knows me out there. But so I got a lot of things. I need to be an octopus, have a bunch of hands. So it'll at least take me 2 weeks to do resumes. But I prefer you to go to somebody else. But if you just got to come to me, I appreciate it. And I would really assist you. But you can inbox me for questions so that you can do your own resume or even take it to somebody else. And I'll be more than happy to do so. So that's it for me tonight. I'm quite sure I left out something, but guess what? I tell all the people, my students, my job seekers, anything you want to know about anything, just Google it. Google is your best friend. Google is your best friend. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it and learned something and had some aha moment or some takeaway. And I think I'm going to buzz out. So remember to put those buzzwords, remember the accomplishment, remember the professional summary before you even start the resume. Remember to add a cover letter. Remember to enjoy the process. Don't overdo it. Just do the best you can and then pray for the rest. All right. God bless. Have a good night. Take care. Bye now.